Oscar, every dad has that story that just lights them up. Like you just love to tell about being a dad.
Yeah.
It's an experience and an incident, whatever it is. What is your favorite dad story?
Dude, my wife always says that it's kind of a little sadistic. But it was my oldest daughter. She was then, I think, maybe 4, maybe 5. We shot her tooth out with the bow and arrow. Like she had the bow and arrow from that cartoon with the Irish cartoon. I can't
Oh,
remember the
Brave.
name of it. Brave, yeah. So
Yeah.
she had like the bow and the arrow, and she had this tooth that just kept like wiggling, and then she would eat, but then she would cry because it's bugging her and whatnot. So I kept trying to convince her, like, we need to pull that out. Like I can pull it out, and then she'd be like freaking out. Um, and finally, I got her convinced. I'm like, look, we'll tie your tooth right to this little string. We'll tie the string to this arrow, and then you're gonna be brave, and you're going to fire the arrow, and your tooth will come out. And man, we have it on video. It's actually hilarious. She took so long. Like she'd pull a little bit and then start crying, and then pull a little bit and start. I mean, it was just it. I felt really bad because it made me laugh. Like I knew it wasn't gonna hurt her, right? But at the same time, like from an outsider's perspective, you're thinking that dude's a dick. What is he doing to his kid? Um, but finally, she pulls. I personally think she accidentally let go, but she did let go. Arrow goes off somewhere, and then she just kind of stops, and she's like, "I did it." And then there's no crying, like there's no pain, obviously, because the tooth was super wiggly, and tooth is gone, and we high five, and that's like the end of the video. And I'm so glad my wife captured it on video because it was just one of those moments, like when she's in high school and she wants to, talk crap, I'm like, let's watch this video. Come here, you know. So that's definitely one of the stories that kind of sticks with me for. It's been stuck with me for a long time.
Oh my goodness. That needs to go like they have I don't know if y'all schools do it. The ones around here have like a senior video for all the different seniors that they play
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's right.
slides. That needs to go in there. That's next
That's
level.
right.
That is
Oh yeah, that's full embarrassment. It's going on there for sure.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait. I'm gonna go tell my kids that story as soon as I tried to convince my oldest daughter to let me do that,
Yeah,
and she was like, no, just no, dad."
yeah. Leave me alone.
My oldest daughter, her teeth don't like to come out, like, they hang on for dear life.
Oh
I
man.
finally had to pull out one because like, the other tooth was almost all the way in, and the old
Yeah.
tooth is sticking straight out. It's like, "It's gonna go through your lip, baby. No, we gotta get
Right.
it out." And I tried. I was like, "I wanna use a bow." She's like, "No, that's not happening."
Right.
But I'm gonna have tellers like, "See, it works.
It
I talked to
works.
Oscar. He said it works."
I tried to put that video up, and one time my daughter's like, "Absolutely not. You will not." She's 13, so image is big. She's like, "You will not put that video." All right, cool.
Gents, I sleep on a my pillow. I sleep on my pillow Giza sheets and my pillow body pillows. I have my pillow towels. My wife wears my pillow slippers. We have my pillow merchandise throughout our entire house because it is such great quality products that I love every single one of them. And I would never recommend a company to you that I don't use. We're proud to have Mike Lindell and My Pillow as sponsors for this show. You can go to mypillow.com and use code TFM, super complicated. That's our parent company, The Fallible Man. Code TFM for up to 80% off your order and free shipping on orders over $75 for our listeners. You get to support a great American company that is employee owned, and you get to help us keep making shows just like this one that you're listening to right now, as well as you get great products that you can trust and that are amazing in your home. So go to mypillow.com, use code TFM to get discounts on over 200 products. Guys, it's a win 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 for all of us. Let's get back to the show. Welcome to the Dad Hat Shenanigans Podcast, the unfiltered truth of being a dad. Real dads, real stories, unfiltered, candid conversations on fatherhood. I'm your host, Brent Dallin, and my guest today is Oscar Pena. Oscar, see, I cannot talk today. Wow, Oscar, I'm so sorry. I'm butchering you right off the bat. Welcome to the show, to the idiot who can't speak today.
Hey man, Brent, thanks so much for having me. And listen, Coffee's still going, and it's not kicked in yet. So we're gonna be on the same boat here. This might be a rough one for the listeners.
Yeah, yeah. I'm working my way through my first energy drink.
There you go.
So obviously I should have hit 2 or 3 more before we started this.
Well,
No,
we'll get through it.
well, yeah. Oh, yeah, we'll make it work because that's what dads do. They make it work,
That's right.
right? That's just one of our superpowers as fathers. And all the listeners, I guarantee, have had this moment where it just,
For sure.
right? Oscar, how many kids do you have?
I have 3 crazy, beautiful girls. I got a 13-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
And you started getting gray hair the minute they were born, huh?
I started getting gray hair the moment I knew I had girls coming. it was it was that quick.
Oh, for all you dads listening, this is definitely going to be a valuable conversation for fatherhood, but we're both girl dads, so we're definitely going to enjoy this. It's a whole nother level when you have a girl because it just changes your perspective on the world radically. So you have 3 girls, which means
3 girls.
you are plotting to bury lots of bodies along the way. No, just kidding. All the censors were
Listen,
kidding.
I never said that.
I
However,
You didn't have to.
I'm I may or may not be at least preparing to make myself capable of doing those things.
See, that's the dad life right there. It's a
That's
dad's
right.
job to raise the bar so high that your daughters can't help but find good guys.
That's right.
Like every dad has to become Superman for that purpose alone.
Yep. Absolutely. They look at you, and I think they need to see that. And then also, on the kind of knuckle dragger side, I hope that those wrong guys that come around will also notice, and they'll go running without even trying anything. So that's the hope, right? Because then the good guys will stick around because they know they can keep up, kind of thing.
But did you ever? So I have this morbid sense of curiosity, and so I used to read all kinds of things about like torture and about serial killers and stuff like that. Right, just this morbid fascination with really dark, weird stuff.
Yeah.
And I was reading an interview with a serial killer who stalked kids, and
Yeah.
he said specifically the biggest barrier was he looked for girls without dads.
I think I know which one you're talking about, and I've used that in many of my social media stuff because what he said was he's looking for he stayed away from a man who looked capable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And so if this guy's looking for his targets based on not necessarily the child but the surrounding adults and particularly the dad, man, you better believe I'm gonna be capable.
Amen.
That's right.
Oscar, you're wearing a hat. I can't see much of the front of it, but you got to explain what's the dad hat?
So I'm wearing a hat. I'm dude. I'm like the most boring person to wear clothing. So this is why this is like super plain. Um, I have my daughter's shirt because that's what I am. And then most of the time I'm wearing a uniform at work, and then at home I'm just flip flop shorts and a t-shirt, which drives my wife crazy. But this hat it essentially says you know what I
Girl.
am.
Oh, that's a cool hat, dude. I got to get me one of those.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this one actually, there's a company out there called Girl Dad without the I in there, and we got together and he sent me a hat, and I was like, "This is a cool hat," and I like it. It's plain, but it says exactly who I am, and that's why I'm wearing the hat.
I love it. Yeah, I got to give me one of those. Well, I'll get that from you after we record the show.
You
Girl
got
dad.
it.
Because I will forget otherwise if I don't write it down. Because my brain
Right?
doesn't work without notes.
Yeah, absolutely. We only keep what we need. I know.
Oscar, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do. So let's get some context here.
Yeah, man, I'm a regular knuckle dragger from California. I'm an active duty military member now for a little over 18 years. Um, I got daughtered in 2012, so my first girl came into the world 2012, and been daughtered twice since then. So I have my 13, 9, and my 5-year-old. And brother, I just realized too late, I think, uh, not too late, later in the game, that I just didn't know what I was doing, and I needed some help, and I needed to be better. And so at one point, after many, many conversations over the phone with a buddy of mine, we decided, hey, if we're having these questions, if we're having these issues, if we're having these thoughts about being better as fathers for our girls, then odds are other people are also doing that. And we started our podcast, Daughter Podcast, and um, that's that's how that started. And the reason that is because I'm a girl dad. I'm a daughtered father, and that's really what I embrace. And I have a amazing wife that is now we're at 22 years, soon to be 22 years of marriage. And she gave me these three girls that have just changed my world. So that's who I am.
Man, and congratulations on your marriage. That's awesome. You
Nice,
I'm so sorry that that has like become a rare statistic to see men who
right?
are married that long. But that is always cause for celebration. My wife and I are right at what year is it? 24 years. I have to take one year. That's how I remember.
There you go. You need
We
to know that number though.
well, we got married in 2001, so I just remember that I have to take one off the year, and I'm okay.
That's a lot easier than mine. That's good.
Right? Yeah, yeah. You got to work out those devices because I would forget. I forget my own birthday. I remember
Yeah, same.
hers.
Yeah,
I remember my daughter's. I have no idea when mine is most of the time.
right.
I'll be filling out paperwork. I'm like, honey, when I was born,
Yep, that's right.
yes, I don't
I need
care.
an adult here. Tell me what to do.
Exactly. Oscar, what's your favorite part about being a dad?
Honestly, man, I think I pondered about this because you kind of presented this question before we started, right? And just pondered about it. I'm like, what is my favorite part about being a dad? It's got to be the growth and the challenge for sure. So it's twofold. So the growth that I've seen because of it has been really gratifying and challenging, but also I'm sure with every parent, man, but just to watch my daughters grow, and I'm not saying physically specifically, but like the things that they do just amaze me, dude. And so the growth that I see in them and their brain and their smartness and in all these things that they do, and the physical stuff too. Like my middle girl, she's a gymnast. Man, when I see her do things, I'm like, what? I was a knucklehead little boy and I was doing dumb stuff like that, but I was never landing it. Like she is like on it. So those little things that I watch in them, the growth that I see, and then again taking it back, the growth in me and the growth in my wife and our relationship because of our girls. I think that's definitely my favorite part of just being a dad.
I love it. And oh my goodness, gymnasts are.
Insane,
I'm awed by gymnasts. Period. So
right?
I totally get it. And seeing your daughter do it, that's got to be amazing.
It's funny too because you'll see if you watch my wife and I, if we were to be on camera when she does some of these things, my wife's like cringing, and I'm like, oh, and then when she falls, my wife's cringing, and I'm like, ooh, that's not going to be good,
I think that's pretty standard operating procedures on that. Like I was a diver in high school, and
Ah,
my dad would be in the stands. He's like, yeah, My dad was a very big, loud man. My mom is like, she comes up to my chest line, uh,
nice,
and she would turn her head away.
right?
I was doing certain dives because she knew how close I was coming to the diving board. It was just I spent enough time in the hospital growing up that yeah, I was
Yeah,
like I got scars everywhere. My kids love it because they ask questions. They're like, "What's that scar,
right.
Dad?" Oh, we haven't heard that story yet. You better tell us because I
There
put
you
my
go.
mom through the ringer on that one. So I understand your wife's reaction. It's like
Yeah, you gave your mom PTSD, brother.
little trauma there, little trauma there.
Right.
Oscar, when you found out you were going to become a dad, what was the best piece of advice someone gave you?
Oh, dude, this is so cliche, but I've the piece of advice that I got originally, I underestimated, and it's enjoy them when they're little. Like enjoy the growth that they're doing. And I say underestimated because it's one of the reasons I have I created the podcast is I didn't do that very well. And that is by far the best advice I've ever gotten. Um, you know, I mentioned before on my show, like your oldest kid, for me, I say my oldest daughter, but for your oldest kid is the one teaching you how to be a parent, right? Like literally every minute of every day, every step that they take, they're teaching you how to be a parent. Even though you might have other children under them, that one kid unknowingly, like, didn't choose the job, but they're teaching you how to be a parent, and then they're still trying to learn how to be a kid, right? And like how to learn, how to grow. Um, and man, like I look at my oldest now, I'm like, dude, I screwed up so much with her, right? Like, but she taught me how to do better for the little ones. So, her sister's got a better product because of what she did. And again, it sucks because she didn't get to choose that. But that's just her lot in life, I guess. And um, I constantly thank her for it. And every so often she'll be like, "What?" I'm like, just don't worry about it. Just thank you, right? But I sit down with her and I tell her. I mean, we have a different relationship because of that.
Hmm.
Um, but that is, I think, the most underestimated, by far, best advice you can give a father to be. Like, dude, it's gonna suck. You're gonna lose sleep. You're gonna think of, as a man, as a dad, you're gonna think of all the things you have to do for this new life that's coming in. Take some time to just realize, like, they're never going to be this little anymore. Like literally the next day they're already older, right? So you have to be present, you have to be mindful when you're there, and then you have to just enjoy them. And that's probably the best advice I've gotten, that I've now starting to embrace, and I wish I would have done it earlier.
Definitely, definitely valid advice. I've never actually put it in that perspective in my head. Their teachings, but as you were talking about it, I'm thinking about my oldest daughter. And it's like, yeah, yeah,
Yep. Yeah.
and she
Yeah,
knows.
you can pinpoint.
Funny thing, my oldest daughter knows. Like she's like, yeah, yeah, you're experimenting with us. You experimented with me for him. I was like,
That's right.
Oscar,
Yeah,
what do
and
you
we
want?
have those conversations. My oldest and I should be like, "You didn't do that with them." I'm like, "You're right, because I learned with you." Sorry. And we don't use the F word in the house. So like the fair word is not used in the house. Like that's not fair. I'm like, you're absolutely right. It's not fair. You know what's not fair? Life out there, not fair. So you might get things that your sisters don't get, and your sisters might get things that you get or that you don't get. This is just the way that life works. You're older, you have more responsibilities. No, it's not fair. So we always talk like that, and she'll bring it up every so often, but she knows that the F word doesn't fly around here.
And in all fairness, I think the F word is legitimately should be just blacklisted with the other foul words for sure.
Right.
I'm not sure who ever tried to perpetuate this idea into society of fairness, but it's like,
Yeah.
you haven't lived much life then. So,
Right. There's a lot that happens that is absolutely not fair, and you have zero control over it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oscar, what do you want to dig in today for fathers? What do you want to dig into?
Well, man, my goal with what I do is to remind dads, and I'll be honest with you, it's a labor of love and a little bit of selfishness, right? So the show for me is selfishness, because when I have a dad on, I'm learning. That's literally why I have you on. All right, give me your perspective, give me your mistakes, your successes. Like, I need to know these things so I can start shortening that curve for learning for me, right? So it's a little bit selfish, but in that process, I hope to remind dads that there's three things that we really need to focus on, right? There's a bunch of things within those, but three things that we really need to focus on. We need to be stronger physically, mentally, emotionally. We need to be stronger, right? We need to be that dad. And I say this from not a pulpit, brother. Like, I'm like trying to climb that same ladder. Like, emotional control is so important for our girls, our kids to see, and for us to model. So emotionally stronger, like you and I, we're older. We have a playbook that we were given as we were growing up. Sometimes we realize some of those plays don't work, right? They're just not the greatest way to do things. And so when I when I say, hey, dads need to be stronger, yes, sure, I do mean physically, because you need to pick up your kid, and then in my mind, you need to be able to react to something dangerous to protect your family in the moment. So you need to have that strength, but also be that emotionally strong person in the household, right? Don't, you don't have to be stoic, but be that emotionally present person. And dude, my household is full of girls. So if I don't work on that, like the emotional levels in this home, they'll explode in a couple of years, right? Like this is not going to work. So working diligently to be stronger. Like I said, physically, mentally, and emotionally, for my girls. And I say mentally because again, we all have baggage, brother. Like we all have things in our lives that we have to work through, and we need to work through them so that our kids don't have to work through them for us later on, right? And so being mentally stronger is so important. And then the other one is mindful and present. Uh, I told a story one time about my little one saying I was a bad dad, like straight up. She's just like, "You're a bad dad," and I was like, "Whoa, let's talk about that, right?" And I said, what makes me a bad dad?" And she's like, "Well, you want to kill our dog. We have this little tiny dog. He's still a puppy, and you can imagine why I would say, I'm gonna kill you, dog, right? Because like ripping things, peeing, pooping in the house, what have you, like all the puppy things that happen. Um, but the lack of mindfulness I was having when those words were coming out, dude, a 5 year old is very literal, right? So now she's telling me that she's seeing me as this bad person because I want to, you know, unalive our dog. Now, for us as a figure of speech, for her, it's a literal thing. And being mindful of how we're being perceived by our kids is so important, right? Because one thing I've learned as the man of the house, literally, because I'm the only one, um, I carry, my wife does too. Don't get me wrong; she's the boss around here. But I carry a certain temperature in the house. So if I walk in and I'm not mindful of how I'm presenting myself in the house, right? You had a bad day at work or a long day at work or what you name it, it's all in there. You come in and all of a sudden the temperature changes in the house, right? The figurative temperature. And that's not okay, right? Because you shouldn't do that to your family, especially when your daughters, when your kid comes up to you happy with something from school. If you have that, if you don't have that mindfulness of how you're presenting, that can kill that excitement for the kid right then and there. And now we're missing an opportunity to connect, right? And so being mindful of how our children see us, how our spouse sees us, and how the world around us is perceiving us, I think is really, really important. And then finally, presence. I that's my biggest one. I have learned through countless conversations on the show now that I sucked at being present, particularly with my first daughter. One, I was constantly gone due to work. I mean, I was out all the time, physically. But then when I was home with her, I found myself mentally not present because, it's too hard. I'm still dealing with my own stuff, right? So I'm getting frustrated and all these things. So I can easily just go away mentally to do something else. And that's missed time and opportunity with your children and your spouse. If you're not present, you're missing that time, and that all comes back at the end and bite you, man. And so that's something that I have taken just to heart. We need to figure out as dads how to be present. What that means, it's going to depend on the context of your life and your family. I get that. But what does it mean to be present? It means freaking put the phone away. Don't be looking at email. Don't be even TV, right? Like TV is distracting. Just little things that will distract you. Figure out how to not do those things and actually be present in that very moment. One of those things I give like hard time for my wife. She'll pull a camera out when we're doing something. She's trying to take a picture. I'm like, just be present. On the flip side, I'm really bad at capturing moments on the camera because I'm like, no, we're just here. And she's like, well, you didn't take a picture. True, right? Like I get that, but yeah, man, present. So for me, being stronger, more mindful, and more present, they're my goal. And there's so many things within those that I'm working on and I need to work on. But overarching, I think those are the three that that's just what I need to do for my girls. I need to be better for them as as they grow up.
I think it's funny because you were saying your wife wants to take pictures, and you're like, no, be in. I'm like, oh look, I I, I think that's almost every couple. Like that is the reality in my house. I'm like, put your phone down and just be here. And my
Yep.
wife's like, but I want pictures of it, and I because I want to remember this. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, and we'll do something. I'm like, we have no pictures of it because I didn't think to take pictures
Because
of it.
you didn't. Yep.
Right. Uh,
Yep.
you know, I've talked to a lot of fathers between my shows over the years, and this idea of presence is difficult for all dads. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
a universal issue for all dads. And I don't like to generalize too hard most of the time, but in all the men I've talked to, that's always a pain point
Mm-hmm.
because we is a difference in the way our brains are formulated, the way our brains actually behave. Uh, Years ago, I read a relationship book, and then I heard the speaker actually present at a conference, and it was called "Men Are Waffles, Women Are Spaghetti." And the whole concept was about how our brains interact differently, right?
Okay.
Women's brains work like a plate's full of spaghetti, right? You start at one end of a strand of spaghetti, it's going to weave through that whole plate and it's going to touch everything else in there.
Okay.
Men's brains are compartmentalized, like waffles have little squares. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a nerd, so I think of the tape machines in the movies that pulled the
Yeah.
individual tapes. I used to
Right.
work in the industry, so I'm really familiar with that, and that's the way our brains work. And so for us to be present, we put that in, and everything else falls away because this is the program we're running right now, and we can't
Right.
program simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so,
That's such a good analogy, dude. Because it's exactly what it is. I get to work. I put in that programming. I'm at work. Right.
mhm,
The problem, I think, at least with me, is sometimes I forget to take the programming out at the right times, right? Or maybe I'll run two programs, and God knows I can't run two programs at once. It just doesn't work,
no,
right?
men's brains focus on one thing, and we have to
Right,
switch to do it. And it's not there's a reason, right? Biologically, there's a reason, and
right,
that is for that protection side, right? Men need to be able to put in that protection tape and shut out all the fear, all the pain, all the doubt, and
right.
just protect, right? If our brains worked like women do, we couldn't do that as effectively. That's just not. We have to be able to close off all the other systems and be like,
Yeah,
"Bam, I'm here. I'm doing this." Right?
yeah,
I have to protect. And so there's evolutionary biology that comes into it, or if you're a faith based person, right? There's design to it,
yeah.
whichever way you want to
Absolutely.
go with it. And so it works. That's why men and women, right? We're meant to work together in parenting. We each bring
Mhm.
something unique, but that's why like we don't think of pulling out our phone to take a picture when we're doing something with the kids because it's like
Right.
I'm doing something with the kids. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
My oldest daughter and I we go fishing together. I suck at
Yeah.
fishing. I hate fishing. My brother and I took them camping when they were little up in the Rockies and took them fishing for the first time. And we came back from that trip, and my oldest daughter really had a good time fishing. And I'm like, I've hated fishing my whole life,
Not anymore,
but
brother.
but well, and I told her, like, no, I hate fishing. I just love spending time with you. But
Yeah,
I came home
that's
from that
cool.
trip and I went to Walmart and I found a nice older gentleman. God bless him. I wish I knew his name because I've talked about him
Yeah.
several times. I found an older gentleman on the fishing aisle in Walmart. And I said, "Hey, I take it you fished for a long time." He's like, "Well, yeah." I said, "Look, I'm sorry to bother you, but here's the situation. My daughter had this experience. She loves it. I know nothing about fishing, but I want to take her fishing because she loves
Yeah.
this. And I want to do things with her she loves."
Yeah.
And bless that man spent over 45 minutes educating me on fishing, helping me pick the right gear for my daughter and I. I gave her the A,
That's awesome.
right? So, dads help each other out there because that man,
Yeah.
like, he was a godsend in the moment. right? But we do these things. My daughter now teases me because I'll be out, and because I'm on YouTube and doing other stuff, like I'll take a selfie of us. She's like, Dad,
Right.
stop acting like a teenage girl.
Right.
She's like, she totally doesn't expect that from me. So
Right.
we gotta, it's not our strong suit. So we got to build in the simple change.
Right.
One of the practices I've taught my daughters is they'll walk into my studio and I'll be editing something or working on something, and they'll wait. They wait until I acknowledge them because they know I'm here. And
Right.
then the acknowledgement is, a quick glance at, hey, what's going on? And they're like, lunch is done, right? Or something like that. Or it's like, hey, can I talk to you about this? And so my trick has become, okay, give me 5 minutes. I need 5 minutes to wrap this up because I want to talk to you. I want to be in this conversation with you, but I have to finish this. And then I will stop this and spend as much time as I need to on this with you. And so I've conditioned them to so that way I can switch the program. And I think as dads, it's one of those things we can learn to do, because it's a conscientious change for us to switch from one thing to the other. And that's as simple as like guys who, I'm not a sports guy, but guys who like to watch sports at home, it's the same thing. It's a different program when you're sitting watching that, right? You're not actually there.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing too, is, and I don't know how it works for others, but for me, to your point, like if I'm working on something, if I'm in the zone, or what do they call it, in flow, right? Whatever.
It is.
If I'm in that, I have to be able to continue, or it screws it all up. So if like I'm writing something and working on something, so I do the same thing. Like, hey, I want to listen to you, I really do, but you need to give me 5-10 minutes, and then we can do whatever you want. And although it feels almost like you're not giving them what they need, I think it's more purposeful than yeah. Tell me what you need, and I'm still thinking over here, and this is me, right? Because like, if I leave that project I'm working on and I'm over here, I'm still thinking. I'm like, where did I leave off? Like, what was I going to put down? Like, oh, I mean, it's just my brain just keeps on moving, and so I think it's more. I think it's more loving, if I have to use that word. I don't really know if that fits, but you're showing more of that to your kid by telling them, hey, I can't pay attention to you right now because I'm on this, but when I'm done with this, now I'm all yours, as opposed to kind of being half-assed there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think also, again, with the modeling, like you're modeling that for them. So you're modeling that you need to be present in conversations, right? One of the biggest things that drives me nuts is when I'm talking to someone and they'll start emailing or they'll start texting. I'll literally just stop talking. Like I don't even have time for this stuff anymore, right? Like I'm like, all right, I'll wait. And my wife will do that, and she'll look at me. I'm like, I'm finish your text because I'm not talking.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten to a point where she doesn't do that. But you see what I'm saying? Like it's that little bit of distraction. And I know that they say that women can do two things at once. I don't know about that. Like I don't. They claim they can. I know I can't. Um, but it's the same thing. It's modeling that for our kids. Like, nope. When I'm here, I'm here. I'm
Mm-hmm.
listening to you. And then when I'm not here, I'm doing something else so that I may not be paying attention to you, right? Because I need to focus on these things. I think it's a good modeling process for them as well.
Well, and it's an applicable modeling for them, right?
Right.
Because if you're at work, I mean that you work around other guys at your job, right?
Right.
And you don't just walk up and interrupt somebody. That's not how the real world works. That's
Yeah.
rude. It's
Yep.
disrespectful. Get you in a lot of trouble, right?
Yep.
You walk up, wait to be acknowledged, and you can be like, okay, thank you for the information. Give me 5 minutes, I'll be with you,
Yeah,
right?
that's right.
And as dads, it feels weird the first time you do it with your kids.
Hmm.
I don't have to explain it anymore because I did it long enough to
Yeah,
build. They
that's right.
understand what's happening. But when I first started doing it, it was, I need 5 minutes, and it's because I want to focus on you. I
Hmm.
want to be here with you. Right now, I have to finish this, and it will distract me from hearing what you're saying. And you are so important. I need to make sure that I'm 100% with you and not on this. I
Right.
really want to hear what you have to say, right? And it would totally take me out of the flow state.
Yeah.
But I looked at it as a training time, right?
Yep.
I was training them for a point where it wouldn't knock me out of flow state anymore. I can be like 5 minutes, or I'll hold up 2 fingers and be like,
Yeah.
just got to
Give me
finish
2
this.
minutes. Right.
But and it knocks you out to start with. But it's also that mental strength, because, right, that you're developing to be able to communicate with your kids,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to go, I'm not being a bad dad, right? Because at first you feel like you're being a bad dad,
Yeah.
but now you're going, no, I'm not being a bad dad. I'm prioritizing my children by making sure that I can be present with them.
Right.
And you start to develop a mental strength, because it feels kind of crappy the first few times. You're like, I'm such a dick.
Well, that's because that's what you're being told, right? So everybody's like, oh, if you're not paying attention to your kids, it's like, okay, sure. If I'm completely neglecting my children, got it. But no, that's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to life again. It's one of those like book things we were talking about before you hit record, right? You're like, you read this thing in this book, and then your kid gets here, and all of a sudden you're like, that is not what happened in the book, right? So this book can tell you all day long, you have to pay attention to your kids and give them 100% of your attention. Yes, but also there's life, by the way, right? Like I've got to work, I've got to do these things, and I want to I want to cut those things in the right manner. So if I'm working on work, let me finish work, and then that way I can be 100% with you, and I can give you the attention that I think you deserve, right? As opposed to, like you said, getting out of your work state, and all of a sudden now you're messed up with work, but also you're not present with them, and like no one wins there, right?
Mm-hmm. And I know there's a lot of dads right now who are listening going, guys, that's a lot to grow mentally, physically, spiritually,
Yeah.
to work on that mindfulness and that presence. It takes a few years of being a dad sometimes to understand the pure impact that just your presence has on a household.
Yeah.
You were talking about that temperature change.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I worked in the corporate world, there were days that I pulled in the driveway after being gone 10 hours or whatever, and I sat in my car for 5 minutes because
Right.
I had to get my head right and leave all that work crap in the car. Like I couldn't.
Right.
I was like, I'm not bringing that into my house, because that's not their fault. That's not. It doesn't matter how bad that went or how frustrating that was. That's not my kids, right?
Yeah.
And you can absolutely change the tone of everything by walking in carrying all that weight.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, Cooley and Bedros. I heard this from Joey Bowen, who's the owner of Fuel Hunt, but he talks about he gives this analogy of like taking off the armor. Right, you're out fighting, you're like this knight, and you come home and you have to take off the armor and then walk inside, because that armor blocks out those connections and relationships with your family. But like if you imagine yourself taking that stuff off, just like you're mentioning, give me that 5 minutes to like, all right, I'm removing this frustration, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Okay, cool. Now I'm here. Like that's really what that's talking about. It's a really cool analogy to kind of picture. Like you talk about a weight, you can't bring the weight inside. Well, that armor is heavy. Take that stuff off, walk through the door, and you're a different person.
Oh man, I love that analogy. And guys, we're so visual.
Yeah.
That's just a really phenomenal analogy for men. Of like, nope. I had the flashback because we were talking about Brave earlier, of his wife being like,
Yeah.
no weapons on the table.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah,
Hey,
you got to leave them outside.
yep, leave them in the mud room, whatever you want to call it. Like, shed that off.
Right.
You have a room where you gear up to go out, right?
Yep.
That might be the mud room, that can be the armory, depending on what your job is. But you have that room,
Right.
gear up,
Right.
right? And so I think that's a really great analogy for the dads listening. Is understand, like the honestly, like this is the whole metaphor of the dad hat. This is the whole basis of this show.
Yeah.
Is, well, let me take off the work hat.
That's right.
Got to put the dad hat back on. And
Yep.
right, we're switching gears, we're switching tapes, we're taking off the armor and switching to the role we need to be in with our children. And the books are so frustrating. The other thing books don't account for at all, parenting books, personality.
Oh, dude. They assume the same kid is in the same in every single book.
Oh my goodness. Your oldest are, you said 9 and 13.
Yeah.
So they're definitely starting to display their own personality traits.
Oh yeah.
And it's
Oh,
a
even my 5-year-old, dude. Even my 5-year-old. It's
it's a
crazy.
combination of you and your wife, but then you start seeing the things like, nah, that's totally them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let me guess, totally different personalities for all three of them.
Oh, 100%. We talk about that as playbooks, right? Like you get your first kid and you're like, all right, I think I got this. Like your second kid's coming in, you're like, I'm good. I got a playbook. It's all good. Second kid comes in, you're like, this playbook doesn't freaking work. I got to make a new playbook. Like it's literally the same thing. It doesn't work because they're people. I think we forget that, right? Our children are people, and they're the brain. If you, I'm again, I'm a knuckle dragger, but if I start looking at neuroscience, I'm like, no wonder why we're so different. Everybody, right? Because the brain is just an amazing and yet kind of a whole thing. Like it just makes us all different.
Oh, that needs to be featured on the next. What's his name? I'm thinking of the neuroscience guy who's all over YouTube.
Oh, Huberman.
I mean, yeah, your
Yeah,
brain is an a-hole. That's
yeah. Brain's kind of an a-hole sometimes.
that needs to go on his next show right there on neuroscience.
Hey, I'll talk to Huberman all day. That guy's cool.
Right? Yeah. No, that's the funny thing, right? That may not be the scientific phrasing, but it's true. It's totally
That's
true.
that's the knuckle dragger phrasing, brother.
Oh, that's all good, brother. I love, like I was telling you before we started rolling, I love talking to military guys because people outside don't always understand the humor or the way the brain
Yeah,
works, but it's just raw and unfiltered. That's why I love it. It's
yeah,
like,
it is, and
that makes
we,
total sense.
yeah,
You
that's
can
right.
call it something more complicated, but let's
Oh,
say
I
it
could call it a lot of other things. I just can't say it on camera.
right. If your relationships are not where you want them to be, I want you to know I got your back. Relationships take a lot of work and they can fall on the back burner pretty easily as your empire building in your life. Men often suffer from damage to their relationships while they're trying to provide. Well, I help men with the skills, techniques, and solutions to rebuild thriving relationships with the people they love. Even if you've struggled in the past with being the husband or father you want to be, it's not too late. So reach out and schedule your free discovery call at purposedrivenmen.com to learn the skills you need to connect deeply with the people you love who matter the most in your life. Let's get back to the show. So you said that you love the growth that you've experienced as a father
Yeah,
because it's pushed you to be stronger mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and you were talking about being stronger emotionally and the way that you affect the temperature in your home. I always think back to the difference between your mom saying you can do something and your dad saying you can do something is
mm,
radical. Like the way it affects children psychologically.
hmm.
Your mom says
Okay.
you can do something, there's a comfort to it, a warmth. Your
Yeah,
dad says you can do something and you believe it. Like it's
yeah,
empowering
yeah, yeah.
because your dad doesn't lie about things like that. Your mom loves you regardless, and your dad loves you regardless. People, but you always feel like you got to kind of earn that. So your dad's not going to
Mhm.
say like, "Oh, you can do this" when you can't,
Right,
and you believe them, right? That's part
right.
of that temperature in the house. Your daughters, you tell them, "Hey, no, honey, you really can do that new trick you've been trying that you've struggled with. You
Hmm.
absolutely can." Your daughter's going to go, "Yeah, I can."
Right,
If your wife tells your daughter that, she's going to be like, "I know, mom, I'm working on it."
right.
Daddy's saying it. That's like, "Oh, yeah, push the gas pedal. I can do this now."
Well, that's why mindfulness is so important for us. Being mindful of what and how we say things is really, really important, man. Um, because as much as I love my daughters, right? Like I'm like, you're you're not 6'6", so there's certain things that a 6'6" person is gonna do that you cannot. It, that I didn't make that up. That's just the what the world gave that person, and you're shorter, and right. So being able to push them to do things and then saying those things and speaking belief into them, that's really important. I think that's what you're referring to, but doing it in a way that is realistic and not, completely crazy. Like I'm always very cautious because I do believe that they can do most anything in their life. But I also know from growing up as an athlete, from being in military training, like certain people have certain genetics that help them do certain things. That's just what it is. And some of us don't have that, and some other people do, right? The NFL is the 1% of collegiate athletes, right? So collegiate athletes themselves are the cream of the crop, and then you somehow pick the top off of that. So again, just keeping it real, right? Like there's a very important job that we have to push them, to give them the reality of what they're asking to do, to speak belief in them, but also help them to either realize the difficulty that might be, and then maybe help them come up with a plan, right? My daughter for a while was like, I'm gonna be a professional skater. I'm like, okay, let's talk about what that means. What does that actually mean, right? Um, does that mean falling off your skateboard 1,000 times for 8 hours a day? Absolutely, that's what that means. So let's do that. Just understand that this is what it's gonna take to get to this thing, right? And do I think you could do it? Absolutely, if you put in the work, right? So I think that's a dichotomy that we have to, as dads, kind of walk that line with is I want to speak confidence and ability to you, but I also need you to understand that that takes work, and this is the work that it takes.
I had to have a conversation with my kids. So I've always been like strongman training and powerlifting. Um, and at one point it really started peaking the last several years of people arguing over women can do everything men can and blah blah blah. And
Right,
so we were having a conversation with my daughter one day, right? And about it's just she's like, well, if they work as hard, they could. It's like, no, baby, there are biological differences. Period.
right,
Right. So I broke it down for her, and I showed her. It's like, okay, so this video, and I pulled up a video on my phone, and it's one of the top female powerlifters in the world. Like, she was in the
right.
animal cage at the Arnold monster lift for a female, right? And I told my daughter, I was like, she is the top. Like, literally, this is one of the strongest women in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And she trains more than most guys will ever train in their life. Like,
For
this,
sure.
this
Yep.
is her whole life. I said, you see this lift that they're all exploiting over? She's like, my daughter's like, yeah, that's awesome. I said, I can do that. I pulled that much weight before as
Right.
an office jockey who just
Right.
trains 4 or 5 days a week. She is 10 times the athlete I am. Like, this
Right.
woman works 100 times harder than I do. She is 10 times the athlete I will ever be, pound for
Mm-hmm.
pound. But that's the biological basic difference is
Mm-hmm.
men will always be able to put on more raw muscle than a female. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
base. And so, I was like, you can be ridiculously strong, and I will train you for that if that's what you want to do.
Right.
But understand there are limits that have to do with the fact that we're just made differently. And there's
Right.
nothing wrong with that. And
That's a really important conversation, and I mean, you could take yourself out of the picture. I like how you input yourself in the picture,
mhm,
but you can take yourself out of the picture and be like, the best female and the best male. Look at the disparity in the
yeah,
kilograms that they're lifting. Just look at that. And then go down the list of, number two, number three, number four males. And I don't know that world and numbers very well, but my guess is that the best female is maybe equivalent to maybe the eighth or ninth male within that category, right? Um, Again, that's just guys out there. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I'm just putting
yeah,
in perspective. I don't know that's a fact. So, but the fact is that you can see the disparity. It's clear as day. And so when people go and try to bend that truth, it's a very hard thing for me to understand. So that makes me feel like it's a really hard thing for our children to understand.
Right.
But that's a really good way to put that, right? I mean, it's look, I can do that, and it's not taking away from her because the
Yeah.
amount of work that she's done to do this thing, and it's not, and I don't think it's even putting her down, right?
No, no.
It's an amazing feat to see those things happen. Um,
Well, that's why I
but
picked that athlete is my children know. Like I've shown
yeah,
this is a role model for you, right? She
right,
is extraordinary. This woman not only set 23 world records, she also finished her doctorate while she was doing it and running her own
right,
gym that she owned at 25 years old. Like she did
yeah.
all at the same time. Like,
She's the
and
pinnacle. That's
I've been
awesome.
like, this is an extraordinary woman, and they know that I have a ton of respect for her, but they also see me lift, right? Because I lift at home a lot of times. So I put it into something that is like, okay, here's context. Here's someone I truly, truly look up to and respect as an athlete,
Hmm.
individual, and I have told you to look up to. So they know it's like, I'm not throwing shade here, and I'm not
Yeah.
saying daddy's great. I'm saying you've seen me train. You know I respect this person, right? Because I think it's really important that we help our daughters find healthy.
Oh yeah.
So hard to find healthy role models, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
You look at what they want and go, okay, here are women you should look up to,
Hmm.
right?
Well, and I think that's why that mindfulness thing is really important for dads. And I'm not saying it's not important for moms, right? If your mom says, like growing up, if your mom said a certain thing in a certain tone, like it kind of break you, right? Like they have to be mindful too. I get it. But my lane is a dad. That's where I'm at, and I truly believe that fathers have a lot of power, both negative and positive, in that mindfulness. So you can say something not meaning to and completely deflate your kid from something they're trying to do, because you're not being mindful of how those words come out. And I'm not a proponent of like words are violence. Like that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that words matter when your kid is trying to figure out who they are and finding that inner voice, because we tend to be that inner voice.
I love it. We better start wrapping this down. Oscar, where is the best place for people to connect with you?
Oh man. So daughterdpodcast.com is my website. It has everything in there that you can essentially find on me. It has our Instagram for the podcast. It has my Instagram. I go by a_growing girl dad on Instagram. And also you can find on there the episodes, how to listen. Everything's on the website. Also, the first thing that you'll see on the website is a prompt that'll pop up that'll say subscribe. That is to our newsletter. We send our newsletter every week. Try to give, try to add value to fathers' lives, particularly those that want to grow and learn more how to be better for their kids and their families. So we have the newsletter that comes out, the daughter newsletter, and again, everything's found at daughterpodcast.com. So come join the conversation. Come talk to us. You can communicate with us through there, and yeah, hope to see everybody there.
Oscar, we've covered a lot. I've enjoyed our conversation a lot. But people get distracted. So if the dads listening heard nothing else today, what is the final piece you want to leave them with?
Well, first, because I got prepared for you, because this is one of my favorite dad joke. All right, what's the worst kind of fish?
What?
Selfish. My
Oh,
daughters, my daughters love that. And by love, I mean they hate it because I say it all the time. So that was, I needed to put that out there. I was like, I got to do my dad joke. My daughter made sure I did that one for you. Um, man, honestly, we have an extremely important job as fathers. We see that. You can watch videos now all day. You can go into the research and the data, and it talks about us. Maybe not by name, but it's the importance of the father is really important. And the thing is that physically present is good, but you have to be really, really present, man. And your kids want to feel that from you. And so if I had to say anything, is find ways to be present, put the phone away, make time. I think someone had mentioned like I do 20 minutes of uninterrupted whatever with my kid, like do that. If that's all you got, do that. It's, it's not necessarily quantity, but that quality of that time that our children are getting from us is really important. And if you have daughters, you can again look at all the research. Um, their inner voice tends to come from their fathers, and that's both negative and positive. So the mindfulness that we need to have with our words and our actions is really important. Be present, man. That's the biggest thing.
Oscar, thank you for saving me on making the huge mistake of not having the dad joke. The minute you said it, I was like, oh, I can't believe I missed that. So thank you for
No,
saving
you
me.
didn't miss it. We were going for a while. I just wanted to make sure to throw that in there because my daughter wanted to hear it.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm going to go tell my daughters that joke as soon as I hang up with you. So
Yes.
we'll see. I know how well the good joke was by how hard the eye roll is of the 13-year-old, right?
There you
When I
go.
get the heavy eye roll and it's like, Dad, just stop. I know it's a good joke.
You know it's a good one. That's right. That's right.
Guys, thanks for hanging out with us today on the Dad Hat Shenanigans podcast, a community of dads just navigating life's challenges together. Until next time, laugh, learn, and live the dad life.